That was tough. It's hot. I'm not complaining. I love the sun. But let's take these off. Oh, it's a hot one. Like I say on Facebook, the reason I like starting these lives pretty much the moment I stop is because you're still kind of on that high A, which any runner will know. So if I'm doing these kind of live broadcasts to try and give people the confidence and the knowledge to actually get out and have a little run in these difficult times, then yeah, I want to finish when I'm in a good mood. And as runners will probably tell you, you don't feel in a much better mood more than when you actually finish your run. It's great. Natural drugs. Fantastic. So yesterday I did a little first Instagram live. What did I talk about? Hamstrings. Yeah, talking about the common myth that you need to be able to touch your toes to be a good runner. And we kind of finished up summarising that in actual fact, as you become a better runner, you may well lose flexibility in your hamstrings. I'm not sure if I mentioned the analogy, but it's kind of like a spring, and this is useful for new runners to realise, as well as kind of more advanced runners. The kind of mechanics behind running is it is a bit like a spring. Okay, you are landing on a spring. Now imagine a nice tight kind of suspension spring. Okay, it needs to be tight, it needs to be tough, it needs to be difficult to actually push down on it, because then you get your recoil. So if you imagine your foot hitting the ground, by having a tough, tense spring, yeah, it's tricky to get down, but think of how much it then springs off. If you were running on slinkies, you know this wonderful thing about slinkies sort of thing, those loose springs, then you're not going to get any recoil. And that's what running is really. It's a series of like hops from one leg to the other. And if there is a secret to running, or ultimate skill to running, then it's having the physical ability, and potentially the running form maybe, but the physical innate ability to actually have strong springs, so that every time your foot touches the ground and you drive it down to the ground and you drive it back behind you, you're getting a free kind of recoil spring forwards. That's what running is all about. So it's useful to hang on to that analogy when you're thinking about, should I be stretching, should I be strengthening, what type of strengthening should I be doing, and so on. So why am I talking about this? Because, well, on Tuesday I'll be doing a joint Instagram live, which I've never done before. Bikes and Laces, who was watching yesterday, has invited me to do an Instagram live with her, and I'll be talking about strength and conditioning for runners. I'm going to kind of aim it predominantly at new runners, beginning runners, or people coming back from injury, but there'll be something there for all runners. So thanks Bikes and Laces for the invite, and if you are interested in strength and conditioning for runners, then join us on Tuesday 11 o'clock GMT over on Bikes and Laces channel. Yeah, there you go. Right, so once again, this is just me rattling on after each of my runs. I am doing a run every day now. Just for consistency, I'm keeping the volume low. I'm actually coming back from injury, as I've explained on one of my Facebook lives. I'm trying to get my body used to actually running in a very low, potentially non-pain form. I've got a bit of heel pain, which I'm not quite sure what it was. I suspect it's because I'm getting old, and the fascia and the pads around my heels. I mean, the typical thing is once you get to a certain age, the thickness of your pads and the fascia does wear down a little bit. So older runners, veteran runners like myself, may be susceptible to a bit of heel pain. I think that's what it is. So ultimately I'm just trying to build up the strength. I've tried traditional strength exercises, and I was either going too much or too little. I couldn't find that sweet spot. So as I'll probably mention on Tuesday with Jess of Bikes and Laces, the best strength exercise for running is running. You just got to find the right volume, the right intensity, the right frequency. But once you've nailed it, you've nailed it. So yeah, that's why I'm running every day. I'm just doing a little 5k every day, various speeds, but keeping it very easy, which is all relative, but very easy for myself, and just trying to expose my body to pain-free running. And it's kind of working. It's the best thing I've actually done in the last 3 or 4 months where I've been struggling with this heel pain. So I'm not saying everybody should be going out every day running. It's all very, very relative, and this is an important thing which I stress in all of these little Facebook lives or Instagram lives, is there's no one fix for everybody. It's working for me because that's what my body kind of needed. I think it's quite a sensitivity issue, my nervous system, because tissues heal eventually, but I think I was getting a bit worried about it. I was thinking it was a stress fracture, and so anyway, right, let's just say hello to a few people in the house. That's the idea. I'm hoping to start a little bit of Q&A. Hopefully some people out there got some questions for me if I can help. In case you don't know who I am and you just kind of joined thinking, who is this beardy weirdy? My name's Matt Phillips. I'm a sports therapist. I'm also the host of Run Chat Life podcast. Been going for a couple of years now. Had some fantastic, very experienced healthcare professionals and elite runners and elite coaches from across the world. I've had the joy of speaking to people in America, Australia, Kenya. Had some amazing guests on. Next guest, what I remember, is April the 30th, 8 o'clock GMT, Thursday that is, and that's going to be with Todd Hargrove from Seattle. Some of you may be aware of Todd. Amazing practitioner. Used to be a lawyer and then was suffering from some pain himself. He's also a Feldenkrais practitioner, and he's kind of taken the best of that and put it together with modern concepts and pain science, and written a couple of books now. Better Movement was the original one, which is still just a bible of fantastic ideas and concepts, putting together movement with what we know about pain, and coming up with some fantastic solutions for therapists to look at and for self-help for runners as well. And he's got a more recent book out called Playing with Movement, and that's what I'm going to be talking about with Todd on Thursday, April the 30th, GMT, 8 o'clock, and that'll be on Facebook Live. Let me just get rid of these messages coming through. Right, anyway, so that's me. So yes, I'm here to answer any questions you might have on running, if I can, and just have a chat, because you know what, this isolation thing, it's nice to get out and have a chat now again, isn't it? And I promise we won't talk about coronavirus or COVID-19 or anything like that from now on. All about running. So if you've got some questions, put them in now. Let me look through the list. I'm going to have some great names. This is a good thing about Instagram. I'm moving out of the UK. Laete. Hiya, Laete. I guess you're an ultra runner, so if you've got any questions, let me know. Oh my geez, look at that. Lick Julian Romero. Okay, Julian Romero. I don't know where you're from, but hey, how are you doing? Thanks for joining us. Chris Goncalve. How are you doing? This is international selection today. Drewstagram. I don't know who you are. There you go. Checo Marine 78. It's got a thumbs up. Back at you, man. How you doing? Drewstagram has said, hope the heel pain settles down. It's good, mate. I will write it. I don't know if you're a mate or well, you're a mate. I can't see because I can't see if a man or woman from here. Very little screen. I think you're a bloke. But yes, I will write a blog about it. I'll put it on the website, runChatLive.com. But it's been an interesting 4 months. I think it's to do with getting old. Yeah, gets the most of us. It's a common problem. But hopefully I'm going to come up with a solution which might suit some people. TG Soft Tissue sounds like a therapist there. If you've got any experiences you want to share working with runners, then feel free to do so. And Connolly Dean, hello to you, and Anthony James. Right, so if you have got any questions, then stick them in the comments section. If not, what do I want to talk about today? I wanted to talk about footstrike. Every time I think it's an old topic that should really be kind of nailed away and everyone kind of understands it, I think it's one that's worth talking about, especially for new runners who come out of their homes and they're starting for the first time, because it's kind of one of the things which, if you do a little bit of a Google or you speak to your friends or you join a running group, there's still an awful lot of myth and misconception out there to do with footstrike and how you should be foot striking. So if anybody in the room, should we call it, here today has any comments about foot striking or any beliefs or any wisdom they want to share, then feel free to write some comments in there. All I'm going to say is what part of the foot you land on when you run is pretty much an individual thing. Okay, it's an individual thing. It's true that when we speed up, definitely when we go to a sprint, most of us, not all of us, most of us tend to move further forwards down the foot towards the toes. And the majority of people, when they are sprinting, will be on their toes. Okay, but that's when they're sprinting. Okay, because basically your nervous system that controls how you run is aware that you're not going to be doing this very long. You're just shooting to get that bus, or you're shooting to do 100 meters or something. And at that speed over a short distance, probably the best way of moving and getting from A to B at top speed is further down the foot towards your toes. You've got a massively high cadence, which is the speed which your legs are turning over, the frequency of steps per minute. And with your legs turning over so quickly, like Speedy Gonzalez doing a 100-meter sprint, you're more likely to land, your hips are driving back at such a speed, you're more likely to land further down the foot. Okay. However, when you are running at slower speeds, you're more likely to be down towards the heel. Okay, what is a slower speed? Well, there's been some interesting studies and research done, some great work. Originally, back in the day, I always quote Peter Larson, a run blogger. He took some great photos of Manchester Marathon in the States, and basically showed that out of something like 360 photos or something, which he measured at 10k and 20k, I think it was, something like 36k, something like 95% of the runners were landing on their heel first. 95%. A few percent were landing on the midfoot, and by the last point he measured, which I think was 35k, something like that, towards the end, it was no forefoot striking. So either everybody who was running that marathon was doing it wrong, or it's kind of natural to land back towards the rear foot when you are running at a slower speed, as in a marathon pace compared to a sprint. And it's not just marathon. You can look at, there's some great photos as well taken by Dr. Ian Hain, if I remember rightly, of 10k Olympic trials. So here we're looking at the elites, American trials for the Olympics, 10k, and he's got a great series of photos of the fastest runners in the world, the top 20, I think, women and men. And you have a look at those, look it up. What a variety. A few forefoot runners, but just as many heel strikers as well. So yeah, let's get rid of this idea that you're supposed to be landing on your forefoot when you're running at a normal speed. Even the fastest runners in the world, even the fastest sprinters, they're not going to be on their toes when they're doing a little warm-up. No. When they're just having a little jog, it's not going to happen. So anyway, I've got some questions coming through now, so that was just something to drop there. You can put some comments on that if you like. I'm sure I'll talk about that more another time. But yeah, watch out for the myth of having to land on your forefoot to be a great runner. It is a myth. It is a myth. It's a myth. Right. Let me have a look. I saw a question here from a podiatrist. Dun dun dun. So, Drew Instagram. Hi, I'm a podiatrist. Any tips on overweight patients who are trying to lose weight via running? Any tips on how to get into running? Okay, so great question. When you run, what causes running injury? Well, most running injury is caused by an overload. Okay, it's not necessarily that you're running in the wrong way. Most of us will run a pretty good way that suits our body. Our brains are pretty clever with that. They're not going to set us out in a weird way that's going to get us injured. But obviously, if you are overweight, then you are going to be putting more load on your tissues, and it's going to be easier to overload them. So depending how much overweight you are and how able you are, how strong you are to carry that weight, then you may find that you need to find another form of exercise to get that weight down before you decide to start hopping from foot to foot 2,000 times a mile, which is what it is, about 1,000 times a foot each mile. It depends a lot on the individual, depends how strong the tissues are at coping with that extra weight. But I would say, rather than exposing your body to that stress, you'd be better off having a non-impact form to start off, to see those pounds coming off. Of course, the exercise alone isn't going to make the pounds come off. You're also very much looking at your intake probably a host of other things as well in terms of nutrition. But yeah, so it depends on the individual, but overweight and running isn't a great combination. You've got to put it in at the right time. Walking fast, okay, you can walk as fast as some people jog, so walking is very much walking is very much what's the word, it's kind of ignored, it's not given enough credit, particularly for overweight people. A fast walk where you really are pushing it, you take out the impact, and you're having some great exercise. So yeah, I think walking, even with interval walks, slow walk, fast walk, slow walk, fast walk, you're getting the benefits, you're feeling, you're out there, you're getting the confidence. That's probably a good thing for overweight people to get into. It's all about closing that gap, isn't it? I mean, running is a plyometric exercise. You are hopping from one foot to the other. Okay, so you've got to be strong enough to deal with that flight time, that time where you're flying through the air. Even if it's only a little bit, you are taking all your weight off the ground and then landing on the foot. That's the difference between running and walking. Walking, you've always got one foot on the ground. Running, at some point, you've always got 2 feet off the ground. Yeah, the flight time. So that changes pretty much everything in terms of how much weight your tissues are going to have to deal with. So I hope that gives you an idea in terms of helping patients who want to get into running. Support them, stick running on their plan at the end if that's what they're into. Write them down a physical, tangible plan where you've got running there on the map, so they can see they're working towards it, but just put in some clear steps on how they're going to get there. Okay, we have another question down there. Thanks for that question, Druva Scram. Follow up if you want, if that makes sense. Here's a question. Thank you for the questions, people. Connolly Dean. Hi Connolly, or Dean. I've been getting calf issues and I'm moving to more mid-foot strike rather than forefoot. I was a striker, so always short bursts, so it's been hard to transition. Okay, so yeah, it's sometimes when people are injured, like, okay, take me, I've got heel pain, okay, I'm getting over my heel pain. So one of the ways I've tried to get my body used to running pain-free, which is important, because I've got to delete these kind of memory tags of where my nervous system sees running, the context of running as a dangerous thing and sends out pain. One of the ways I've been dealing with that is actually moving to a bit more of a forefoot run at a speed where normally I'd be kind of glancing heel. Turn around. And that's allowed me to actually complete 5k every day by running more my forefoot and avoiding that contact. I've been building up to a little bit of contact, so I've got to get my heel, my nervous system used to having that heel impact, and eventually I'm not going to run on my toes the whole time forever, because you notice that when you do run on your toes it does put more stress on your calves. But this is part of my idea. I believe my heel pain is connected to an age-related weakening of the plantar fascia and the calf muscles and all the structures of that lower foot. When it comes to the pronation and supination, it's all got a little bit loose and weak. So by running on my toes, I am building those muscles up. I really am trying to hit them gradually, but getting them stronger. So we can play around with, we can use foot strike potentially to redirect the forces of running. So if you, Dean or Connolly, are saying that you're trying to move away from a forefoot to take the stress away from calves, that's cool if it allows you to stay running, but it depends what your natural running style is like, whether we can change our running form completely and keep it that. Research kind of suggests you can, if you do it very slowly and gradually with the right kind of sensory input, but you might be saving your calf. Well, you will save your calves from load if you are running more kind of mid or heel strike, but unless you're doing some kind of calf strengthening, as soon as you go back to a higher speed and you do naturally move towards the mid or forefoot, then your calves aren't going to be ready to take the load. So I would combine what you're doing. If it keeps you running, that's fantastic, because we never want to stop a runner from running unless we have to, because that opens the door to all sorts of delayed recovery. But in the meantime, I wonder whether you are actually doing some calf strengthening exercises, or if you've identified a calf weakness, if you are doing something maybe to build up, particularly the soleus, which is the calf muscle, which works more than the gastrocnemius when you're running. Yeah, I hope that gives you an idea. I think you've continued with something else below, haven't you? Let's have a look. Oh, here we go. I'm also doing exercises to find my glutes, to take some load from my calves. There's this relationship, isn't there, with glutes and calves, which personally I think it's a little bit exaggerated. I'm not sure about the logic behind find my glutes to take some load away from my calves. I don't know, kind of depends as well. The glutes sounds like something which an awful lot of therapists kind of hand out. Personally, I'm not too sure of the link there. Yeah, without more of a case history or exactly seeing, you know, what the strength is like around your hip area, I'm not quite sure. But one thing that is interesting that I will mention when people say glutes is at lower speed, at distance running, the glutes have become kind of famous, haven't they, for causing everything that goes wrong. It's always the glutes aren't firing or something, or not working properly, whereas in actual fact, at lower speed, it's probably the hamstrings which do a little bit more work in terms of supporting the body. And so I'm kind of like, I'm always a bit hesitant if runners have been given out too much glute work and maybe not enough hamstring work. Again, it depends. I'm not sure whether you're a therapist or whether someone's giving you those exercises, but I'm always keen to check hamstring strength on runners before glutes and get that sorted rather than focusing too much on the glutes. The glutes are very much involved in sprinting. You've only got to kind of look at a sprinter and see how their body is different than a marathon runner in terms of a massive glute muscle mass. But yeah, so I don't know. But then again, you say if it's helping, these two changes seem to be helping, well, great, crack on with it. The proof's in the pudding sort of thing, isn't it, really? But yeah, I hope that's helped. A foot strike can help if you are struggling with a certain part. You can change where the load goes when you're running by modifying your form to keep you running, but it's a kind of a short-term thing. And as well as the gait retraining, you need to be doing some kind of strengthening elsewhere to make sure that when you go back to your normal way of running, then the other tissues will be strong enough to deal with it. There you go. I hope that helps. Anyway, I'm rambling. Drew vs. Graham, fantastic explanation, really helpful. Thank you, sir. No problem. Pleasure. That's what it's all about. That's what these chats are all about. Beautiful weather down in the south coast, by the way, of England, which is why I am. Have a look. Nice, eh? What's the weather like where you guys are? Where are you guys from, actually? Maybe type in where you're actually from, so I've got an idea who I'm talking to. Anyway, there we go. I'm not going to talk about COVID-19. I want to, but I'm not going to. I want to keep it as just a running thing. So there you go. Right, what's the day of the day? Wednesday? Thursday? I haven't got a clue. It's all kind of moulding into one, isn't it? But like I say, I will be around most days. At the moment it's every day, because I'll finish my run, have a little walk, and have a chat with people who are out there. I'm going to stick on Instagram for now, up to the time where I'm with Bikes and Laces on Tuesday. Makes a change going away from Facebook and coming on Instagram. So if you've enjoyed this, or you're watching the retake, then maybe join us. It's normally around 1 o'clock, but it depends. Normally I put out a little notice of when I'm going to be up and around, but today I didn't get a chance. But hey, so feel free to share, and if it's been useful, then leave something in the comments. Yeah. Right, Dean Connolly, Drew vs. Graham. Anyone else who asks questions, thank you very much, and hopefully we'll see each other tomorrow. Okay, take care and stay safe and stay active.